What's going on, guys? Kaiga here. Welcome back to Lords of Nazarick. Today we're going to talk about all the Rangers and their Arclight cards, talk about what they work with, and go one by one. And at the very end, I'll tell you which ones are the best. Let's get into it. Alright guys, the first two are going to be very hard for anyone to get, depending on your spending level, be it crystals or money. First is going to be Devil in Love Albedo, which only has a couple days left. And the Astral Prey, so talking about her, basic, 2-hit, damage. Hitting has a 40% chance to crit resist down, which is 30%. And it does not stack, so you can't, if they already have crit resist down, another stack of this isn't going to do anything. It's just another chance to affect them with that. Then we have the passive Wife's Duty. Each crit gives you Queen's Grace, which increases your crit damage up to 3 times. Can't be dispelled. Non-basic attacks consume all stacks of Queen's Grace to deal bonus damage of 25% attack per stack to primary target. So it could be up to 75 because you can have 3 stacks. And remember, the basic can crit twice, so you can immediately have 2 stacks. Increases crit damage by 5% per stack of Queen's Grace at 5 stars, which I doubt almost anyone will have because that's 4 copies of her. Remember, if you do the full 100 summons, you can get 1 pity of her, and even if you get 2 of her during those 100 summons, you would still need 1 more of her to activate the 5-star effect. Gains an extra stack of Queen's Grace for every 3 assists. So this really ramps her up because she does a bunch of assists, as well as with her card she'll have more assist. So giving her, she could be in a spot where she's getting all 3 stacks of Queen's Grace just from assists. And then every skill she throws out has 15% crit damage, 75% of her attack bonus. Increases crit of the next attack by 20% if the character does not score a crit on this attack. Resets on a crit. Every time they don't get a crit, they get 20% more crit until they get a crit. Crit damage by 7.5% on Queen's Grace instead of 5%. A flat increase of your assist rate, 15%. Just throw it in there. Next non-basic, 25% attack. Nullifying 30% of their defense. That just adds the 30% to this effect. And you'll notice she likes having buffs. Works very well with almost all of our supports. Biggest one that just gives a bunch of buffs would be Pandora's Actor. Just to give a bunch of buffs for her. Special damage, 100% chance to dispel 2 buffs from the target before dealing damage, and then gain assist rate up for 2 rounds, which is 20% more, as well as you get 100% chance on the next 2 attacks by allies, which goes back into this 5-star effect from her. Then we have the ultimate 4-star effect. She has a 4-star and 6-star effect. I'm going to ignore the 6-star effect. The 4-star is reasonable. If you do the 100 summons, get the select at the end for her, and you get at least 1 copy of her during that 100, then you'll be at the 4-star level. When Queen's Grace is present, we saw tons of ways to get that. Launch 1 Love's Sting, dealing 40% of its regular damage at a random enemy target per stack. At 4-star, deals more damage the lower the target's HP, up to 40% more damage. It doesn't say the scale, but I would expect it is at 100% down to 60% because that's a 40% boost of damage. I'm going to ignore the 6-star. Queen's Grace reaches 3 stacks, nullify guard and shield wall. So once you're at 3 stacks and get all those bonuses from having 3 stacks, you get to also ignore tank effects. The only tank effect she's not ignoring is Platinum Dragon's shield in front of everyone. 2 attacks, 120% attack. It'll get all the bonuses from the passive if based on your Queen's Grace stacks. -1 cooldown, so 3. So every 4 turns you can use it. The card, when having more buffs than the target, nullify 20% of the target's defense. And this doubles if you have it maxed out. No one will have that. But ignoring 25% of their defense for your buffs and then having all your bonus effects are very, very good. And then just stacking any debuffs just to have more buffs, just to have more buffs, as well as she's naturally going to have more buffs with her special that strips 2 buffs from the target. Very self-sustained, but you can work her with just some flat assist buffs as well as assist bonuses. Then we have one that people are a couple weeks out from getting, Black Scripture First Seat. He is a tank buster. He just kills them. Basic damage. Gain 1 stack of Godkin Hemorrhage or Heartbreak when scoring a crit, so he's going to want a bunch of crit. Passive increases his crit by 25%. Gain 1 stack of the Godkin whenever an ally launches a chase. So he would be very, very well with something like Momon. Or no, that's an assist for him. Never mind. Godkin Hemorrhage. Every stack increases crit damage by 6%, and then at level 2 he just gets a flat 20% bonus crit damage. So he's heavy on the crit damage, and as he stacks up the bonuses, he gets more crit damage. Special, no cooldown reduction. Then we have deal damage. Upon landing crit, the attack triggers 1 extra hit to deal 60% attack. Triggers up to 5 times per action. The extra hit can be triggered 1 more time, 2 more times. At 4 and 6-star, you will eventually max him out from the arena store. So normally you will only have him at 3-star for a while, and then you will over time get the 4-star and 6-star. But they don't super affect his kit at all, it looks like. Extra hit damage equal to 80% attack instead of 60%. More damage. The extra hit is 100% base chance, and reduce their turn meter by 15%. You can do it every 3 turns. And then the ultimate, single target, deals damage, nullifies support and shield wall, so they can't tank block it. At 5-star, on hit, flash strike has a 100% chance to inflict buff block for 2 rounds, so they are unable to put buffs up. Skill -1, so down to 4 round cooldown. Up to 260% damage, which is pretty wild. Hitting is a 100% chance to inflict Annihilate for 1 turn. Debuff that stops support and shield wall. So they cannot get bonuses from support and shield wall. So if you go after the healer, the tank can't block this hit, and if they survive, everyone that goes to attack the healer for 2 turns can't be stopped. And the card increases damage dealt to target with that passive right there from the ultimate by 20% or 40% at max, which you will over time from the arena store. Killing with Flash Strike reduces the cooldown of all skills by 1 round, which turns this into right now it's 4, so it'd be 3. This is 2, so it'd be 1. So you can do it every other turn if you get a kill with this. Very, very powerful. Then we go down into Nabe, which starts as an SR, but after you get her to 3 stars becomes an SSR. Very much about her shock. I couldn't get the same view as everyone else because Nabe isn't in any of the summon pools, because you get all of hers through missions and stuff. Starting with her basic. Damage, deals damage. Hitting grants 100% chance of shock for 2 rounds. Single target, 120% attack. Shock for 2 turns. Decent. What you would expect from a shock unit. Killing a target with an active skill will trigger Phantom Duet, which uses the skill again on the enemy with the lowest HP, dealing 50% of the skill's original damage. So if you kill someone with a skill, you will hit the lowest HP target with the same skill for 50% damage. Very, very powerful. If the target is alive after the attack and its HP is under 30%, 100% chance of triggering Phantom Duet on the target. So if you hit someone and they live and they're under 30%, you do the Flame Duet. She's very much an assassin. Can only be triggered once per round. At 2-star, 4-star, 6-star. I'm assuming you'll have her at 6-star from just progressing in the story. 25% crit boost when attacking a target with HP under 40%. If the target is alive after you attack under 30%, duet. Once per round, that's the part I already read. Additional 25% damage when attacking a target under 40%. Already read that part. 1 round cooldown. Started at 2, now it's at 1. Damage. 100% chance to shock for 2 rounds if they already have shock. Increases crit by 20%. So she's putting on shock or she's critting. Very good, especially every other turn. Very powerful. Lightning Bolt. Was 3 rounds, now it's 2. Deals damage. Killing with the skill reduces the cooldown by 1 round, so you can make it every other turn with a 240% damage. Damage dealt by Lightning Bolt increased by 15% if they are shock, which you affect with your basic Thunder Strike, or someone else could put shock on them. Then her card that you'll max out eventually from doing story stuff increases Lightning Bolt crit by 30%. Each crit by Lightning Bolt increases all subsequent damage this round by 20% or 40%. So she really likes the Lightning Bolt, which does 240% damage. And if you're getting the kills or getting a good chase with Phantom Duet if they're under 30% bonus damage, then this is an every other turn nuke. Then there's actually a lot of SRs that go into their own stuff. So we have Edstrom, 120% damage, 50% chance of bleed for 2 rounds. Passive, 70% chance to inflict 2 extra stacks when putting bleed on someone. So she is really good at stacking up the bleeds. And you'll see a bunch of stuff on other characters' kits or on game modes that really care about having 3 or 5 stacks of bleeds. But it can stack up to 10. Special, damage. Triggers bounce once. See if we get bounce 1 extra time on a crit. So it always bounces once, and if you crit at 4-star, then you will get 2 bounces. Hitting the target grants 100% chance of bleed for 2 rounds. And at 6-star, which this is an SR, should be pretty easy over time. Nullifies the target effect resistance when inflicting bleed. So if you have 100% base, like right here, it will always land. Boom. Then we have the ultimate, 3 rounds down to 2 rounds. AoE, damage. 100% base chance of bleed for 2 rounds. Upon hitting, Blood Crescent has 100% chance to inflict bleed, 2 stacks of bleed primary target for 2 rounds, which is the Blood Crescent. Blood Crescent. Dancing Scimitar. There's nothing named Blood Crescent on here. I assume it's talking about the Bloodstained Scimitar, which is an every other turn skill. Then we have the card. Increases damage dealt to targets with bleed by 20%. This is an SR. You can max it pretty easily if you want. And increases Blood Groove trigger rate by 30%. Which is the passive. Then we have Luckrut, which is a pretty interesting character when you hear what he does. He does a bunch of turn meter rewind. Just flat damage on the basic. Passive, 40% bonus crit. Attacks on controlled targets. 15% higher chance of assist. And 1.5 times damage on them. So he likes controlling people, which you'll see. Speed down isn't considered a control, but his ultimate is. 2 rounds, so every other turn. Using the skill, steals 1 buff from the target. Damage. Crit guarantees speed down for 2 turns. And the ultimate, which is every 3 turns, applies Shackle, which is a control effect. Damage, 260%, which is a bit higher than a lot we've seen. A crit reduces their turn meter by 40%, which is a massive rewind. 100% chance of Shackle for 1 round, which prevents turn meter boost. So if someone tries to boost them, like Renner or Nephime, it just won't happen. The card increases assist rate by 15% or 30% when it's boosted, and reduces the cooldown of a random skill by 1 round after every 4 assists. So he wants to assist a lot, especially the card itself gives a bunch of assist. And then when he's assisting, if they have a control effect, he's doing 50% more damage, and he has 15% more chance to assist, doing a bunch of damage. Then we go down to CZ, which is seeing a lot of AoE play right now, even in Arena at the higher tiers. 120% damage on the basic, 100% chance to get a reload stack, which is a buff that enhances the skills, can get 6 stacks. Passive, auto reload, grants 50% chance of gaining a stack of reload after an action where an enemy takes damage. Each stack of reload increases her damage by 5%. So you can get 6 stacks. She can have a 30% bonus going on. Special every other turn. 2 attacks. Each does damage. Releasing cost reload. Each stack deals 1 extra hit, costing 3 stacks at most. So even if you have the full stacks, she can only use 3 stacks. So 2 plus 3. So she can do 5 stacks. At 5 stars, gains speed up after 2 rounds when using the skill. Hitting grants a 25% chance of inflicting heal down. Remember this, if you max it out, is going to be 5 hits with a 25% chance of heal down, which is 50% minus healing. You can put pressure on their carries so they can't be healed. And remember, you get 30% bonus damage from the reload stacks themselves. Shooting spree, AoE, ultimate, 3 hits, deals damage, launching a 3 attack on another target, more damage. A crit grants 60% chance to inflict bleed for 2 turns. Cost reload every 2 stacks deals 1 extra hit. So if you have all 6, that's 3 extra hits, and this is AoE to hit everyone. It already hits 3 times for damage and a follow-up. So at max, it's going to be 6 hits across the team with 6 follow-ups. 100% chance to inflict a stack of bleed on primary target. So very, very powerful. You want to get the full stacks as soon as possible and get the AoE going, especially with the card. As we see, each stack of reload grants CZ 5% crit and 8% crit damage. So remember, you can get 6 stacks. Pretty good. She really just loads up for her ultimate, and then after that she kind of just pitters off for a couple turns, but that's really all she has to do at those higher tiers. Phantom Clementine, 2 hits, 60% attack each, which equates to 120, but can be a lot more depending on certain things with crits and such. Passive, using non-basic attack, grants a 80% chance of entering stealth. Entering stealth grants a 100% chance to purify a debuff and 1 damage over time effect. A big one right now is Mare's Earth Seed, getting rid of that. 100% chance to enter stealth, and advantage, so before the battle starts, start in stealth, and during stealth, reduce damage taken by 20%. Taking any damage will get rid of stealth. Special, every other turn, damage. Hitting grants 100% chance to inflict defense down for 2 rounds. When attacking a target under 50%, nullifies the target sharing, support, and shield wall. This is very similar to what we saw from first seat, adding sharing, which is primarily a Crimson Armor Shaltier effect. Nullifies those effects. When attacking a target above 50% HP, crit increased by 20% and crit damage by 40%. So if they're above 50%, more crit damage. If they're and then 100% chance of the defense down. Midnight Waltz, and then Thunderfire Rampage. 3 turns, no cooldown. Damage. When attacking targets with defense down, she already has defense down that we've seen. Nullifies sharing, support, shield wall, so she ignores defense stuff. Damage increased against targets with higher HP. This is flat number, not percentage. Up to a maximum increase of 25% bonus damage. Up to 50% bonus damage. Very high. She's good at getting them low, taking someone at high HP and either one-shotting them or getting them low. So as we've seen, she does really well against bossing, actually. Defense down being really, really good against bosses, especially the... she is a red unit. She's very, very good against the green boss for treasury. If in stealth before action, increase crit by 25% and crit damage by 25% when using a skill this action. Remember, she can start in advantage, start in stealth, so her first hit is going to have this, and if you go special then ultimate, that ultimate is going to have that bonus as well. We have a bunch of SRs, like I said. Solution, which is one of the funniest characters in the show, I believe. Base just damage. Passive, each attack hitting the target grants 70% base chance to dispel a buff from the target. Each dispel restores 10.5% HP for herself, and each dispel is a 10% turn meter boost. And this isn't just from her skills, it's it's her attack, sorry. I was going to say you could pair her up with other stuff, but this is specifically her skills. Each attack on the target additionally dispels one extra buff triggered every 3 attacks. So she strips buffs, heals when she strips, and does more damage when they don't have buffs, as we'll see from her ultimate. 2 attacks deals damage every other turn. If the target does not have a buff, increase crit damage by 40%. Ultimate, Slime Cage, AoE, 3 rounds, -1 cooldown, so every 3 turns. Deals damage to the target and a little bit less to everyone else. 100% base chance to inflict silence for 1 round. They can't use skills. And at 5-star, if the target doesn't have a buff, after Slime Cage, inflict buff block for 2 rounds, so they can't get buffs for 2 turns. Then her card is the big thing for them not having buffs. When using Slime Cage, the ultimate, every 3 turns, increases this skill crit by 60% if the target has no buffs. Reduce this effect so that 60% by 25% for each buff on the target. So if they have 4 buffs, it never happens. But if they have 0, 60% crit is massive. Vampire Bride, very good on the heal downs, as we'll see, as all the vampires are. She also has a captain skill, as we'll see. Damage, 40% chance heal down for 2 turns. Passive, gain 10% lifesteal. Upon hitting a target under 90%, the attack has 100% chance to inflict bleed for 2 turns. So under 90 is realistic. You're going to get that, right? Special every 3 turns. Deals damage. Hitting the target, 100% chance to inflict Vampire Hand, which is heals the attacker for 6% of their HP. So if during this 2 turns, if any of your allies attack that target, they heal 6% HP, which is pretty high. Doubles HP restoration with Vampire Hand, so it would be 12%, and nullifies their effect resistance when inflicting Vampire Hand. So it will always apply. Then we have the ultimate, 3, -1, so every 3 turns. AoE, hits the targets for damage. 100% chance to bleed for 2 rounds. Upon using, has Vampire Bride and the ally with the lowest HP. heals them for 40% of the damage dealt. More damage, more damage. And the card True Vampire Kin. When Vampire Bride is in battle, every time bleed damage is dealt, restore HP for 12% of the damage for all allies. Then her Captain skill, increase all bleed damage by 20%. This works really well with something like Coyotes, which doubles bleed damage. So the 20% in the double is going to do a lot. And then True Vampire Ken is going to heal everyone every time bleed is triggered, even with Coyotes' bleed. Then last, we have Black Scripture 9th Seat, which will also have a Captain skill. Damage. Passive. Attacks against target inflicted with Immobilize or Bound have a 100% chance to reduce their turn meter by 15%. Increases his crit by 30% and crit damage by 35% against targets under 70% turn meter. So he's very powerful, especially in PvP. With something like Mare on the team, that will just, if they have debuffs, do a massive rewind. Or even the green archer guy that we read up here, Lookrut, which has a 40% turn rewind, pairs really, really well with this guy. Just because he'll get a bunch of crit and crit damage, as well as if they have Bound or Immobilize, which other units have as well, then he'll reduce their turn meter, which is awesome. Damage. Increase Divine Change crit. So this skill crit AoE by 40%. Upon achieving crit, 75% chance to inflict speed down. So he's turn rewinding people and slowing them. And this pairs well with Mare yet again, that we talked about, the Green Mage, that if they already have speed down, then she will she will turn rewind everyone, which will affect Chains of Fate. Divine Chain, damage, reduces the target turn meter by 40%. Hitting the target has a 100% base chance to reduce their turn meter by 40%, and bound for 2 rounds. And inflict damage aggro, which increases the damage they take by 30%. Before hitting, the attack has an 80% chance to dispel 2 buffs on the target. Crazy single target, just I'm going to kill you vibes. Card Binding Chain increases damage dealt by 10% flat, just period, when you max this out 20%. After Chains of Fate is triggered, which is the passive. If the turn meter is 0, 50%, 100% chance at max to stun them for 1 round, which stun is an Immobilize, which will skip their turn, but it also is an Immobilize effect, which will allow you to trigger Chains of Fate even more, because of the if they're immobilized, rewinding turn meter. Just really good at killing one guy, right? So as far as the SRs, who's the best? Obviously Nabe is going to be good in the Shock team. She's very good at, if you already have a team, putting people at low HP. She's good assassin. But the Devil in Love Albedo is the best SSR in my opinion. Just higher base stats than everyone, as well as the assists are out of this world, as well as her crits are the most out of all of them. Technically free to play. It's just going to take some time. Black Scripture first seat is he doesn't bust the tank, but he can ignore the tank and doing a bunch of damage very high. As far as the SRs, a lot of them don't really matter in my opinion. CZ is very good at just a burst comp. If you have a bunch of stuff to get her a bunch of overloads really quickly, then her shooting spree is going to kill the entire team, especially with her card active. Clemente only really used in that green treasure trove. Solution on paper sounds good, but never really works out at PvP or PvE. The Bride is very powerful. Her card and her captain skill alone make her good enough for the bleed team. She does enough bleeds, but with Coyotes, the double and the 20%, and every time they trigger, heal for 12% of damage dealt to the entire team. You don't even need a healer in the bleed team. You could just straight up have 4 bleeds. And last is going to be Black Scripture 9th seat. He's my favorite of the entire team. He pairs super well with the turn rewind kind of team that you're trying to make. With him and Mare specifically, you can team him up with other ones that have a one-shot minus 40%, which is pretty good. But you can also team him up with speed boost or speed or turn meter increase units like Renner, and just have him, Mare, Renner, and another burst character, and the entire enemy team will never get a turn. Let me know what you guys think down below. Till next time, guys.